Chapter 77. Jesus gives counsel about riches. Luke 12, 1-34. Chapter Overview. Illustration of the rich man. Jesus speaks of ravens and lilies. A little flock to be in the kingdom. As Jesus dines at the Pharisees' house, thousands gather outside awaiting him. He has had similar experiences with the crowds in Galilee. Here in Judea, many want to see and hear him, showing an attitude quite different from that of the Pharisees at the meal. What Jesus says first has special meaning for his disciples. Watch out for the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Jesus has given this warning before, but what he saw at the meal shows how urgent this counsel is. Luke 12:1. The Pharisees may try to conceal their wickedness with a show of piety, but they are a danger that needs to be exposed. Jesus explains, "There is nothing carefully concealed that will not be revealed, and nothing secret that will not become known." Luke 12:2. Perhaps many of the people crowding around Jesus are Judeans who had not heard him teach in Galilee. Thus, he repeats key thoughts that he expressed earlier. He urges all who are listening, "Do not fear those who kill the body, and after this are not able to do anything more." Luke 12:4. As he has done before, he stresses the need for his followers to trust that God will care for them. They also need to acknowledge the Son of Man and realize that God can help them. Then a man in the crowd brings up his immediate concern. "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Luke 12:13. The law says that the firstborn son receives 2 parts of the inheritance, so there should be no dispute. It seems, though, that this man wants more than his legal share. Jesus wisely refuses to take sides. "Man, who appointed me judge or arbitrator between you two?" he asks. Luke 12:14. Jesus then gives this admonition to all. Keep your eyes open and guard against every sort of greed, because even when a person has an abundance, his life does not result from the things he possesses. Luke 12:15. No matter how much wealth a man may have, will he not at some point die and leave everything behind? Jesus emphasizes that point with a memorable illustration that also shows the value of having a good name with God. The land of a rich man produced well, so he began reasoning within himself, "What should I do now that I have nowhere to gather my crops?" Then he said, "I will do this. I will tear down my storehouses and build bigger ones, and there I will gather all my grain and all my goods, and I will say to myself, 'You have many good things stored up for many years. Take it easy. Eat, drink, enjoy yourself.' But God said to him, 'Unreasonable one, this night they are demanding your life from you. Who then is to have the things you stored up? So it goes with the man who stores up treasure for himself but is not rich toward God." Luke 12:16-21. Both Jesus' disciples and the others hearing him could become ensnared by seeking or piling up wealth. Or the cares of life could distract them from serving Jehovah. So Jesus repeats the fine counsel he gave about 1.5 years earlier in the Sermon on the Mount. Stop being anxious about your lives as to what you will eat, or about your bodies as to what you will wear. Consider the ravens. They neither sow seed nor reap. They have neither barn nor storehouse, yet God feeds them. Are you not worth much more than birds? Consider how the lilies grow. They neither toil nor spin. But I tell you that not even Solomon in all his glory was arrayed as one of these. So stop seeking what you will eat and what you will drink, and stop being in anxious suspense. Your Father knows you need these things. Keep seeking His kingdom, and these things will be added to you. Luke 12:22-31. Who will be seeking God's kingdom? Jesus reveals that a relatively small number, a little flock of faithful humans will be doing so. Later, it will be revealed that their number is just 144,000. What is in store for them? They have Jesus' assurance, your Father has approved of giving you the kingdom. These will not concentrate on gaining treasures on earth, which thieves could steal. Rather, their heart will be on never-failing treasure in the heavens, where they will reign with Christ. Luke 12:32-34. Questions for review. How does Jesus respond to a question about inheritance? Why is the illustration that Jesus gives worth our serious attention? What does Jesus reveal about those who will be in the kingdom with Him? Chapter 78. Keep ready, faithful steward. Luke 12:35-59. Chapter Overview. The faithful steward must keep ready. Jesus comes to create division. Jesus has explained that only a little flock will receive a place in the heavenly kingdom. But receiving that marvelous reward is not something to be treated lightly. In fact, He goes on to stress how important it will be for a person to have the right attitude if he is to be part of the kingdom. Accordingly, Jesus admonishes His disciples to keep ready for His return. He says, "Be dressed and ready, and have your lamps burning, and you should be like men waiting for their master to return from the marriage, so when he comes and knocks, they may at once open to him. Happy are those slaves whom the master on coming finds watching." Luke 12:35-37. The disciples can easily grasp the attitude that Jesus is illustrating. The servants He mentions are ready, awaiting their master's return. Jesus explains, if the master comes in the second watch, from about 9 in the evening to midnight, even if in the third, from midnight to about 3 in the morning, and finds them ready, happy are they. Luke 12:38. This is much more than counsel about being diligent house servants or workers. That is clear from the way Jesus, the Son of Man, brings Himself into the illustration. He tells His disciples, "You also keep ready, because at an hour that you do not think likely, the Son of Man is coming." Luke 12:40. So at some future point, Jesus will come. He wants His followers, particularly those of the little flock, to be ready. Peter wants to understand Jesus' meaning clearly, so he asks, "Lord, are you telling this illustration just to us, or also to everyone?" Rather than answer Peter directly, Jesus sets out a related illustration. Who really is the faithful steward, the discreet one, whom his master will appoint over his body of attendants to keep giving them their measure of food supplies at the proper time? Happy is that slave if his master on coming finds him doing so. I tell you truthfully, he will appoint him over all his belongings. Luke 12:41-44. In the earlier illustration, the master obviously refers to Jesus, the Son of Man. Logically, the faithful steward involves men who are part of the little flock and who will be given the kingdom. Here, Jesus is saying that certain members of this group will be giving His body of attendants their sustenance, their measure of food supplies at the proper time. So Peter and the other disciples whom Jesus is teaching and feeding spiritually can conclude that there will be a future period during which the Son of Man will come. And in that period, there will be a functioning arrangement for the spiritual feeding of Jesus' followers, the Master's body of attendants. Jesus emphasizes in another way why his disciples need to be alert and to give attention to their attitude. That is because it is possible to grow lax and even go to the point of opposing one's fellows. But if ever that slave should say in his heart, "My master delays coming," and starts to beat the male and female servants and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that slave will come on a day that he is not expecting him, and at an hour that he does not know, and he will punish him with the greatest severity and assign him a part with the unfaithful ones. Luke 12:45 and 46. Jesus says that he has come to start a fire on the earth. And he has, raising issues that cause great heat of controversy and result in the consuming of false teachings and traditions. This even separates individuals who might be expected to be united, dividing father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Luke 12:49 and 53. These comments have been especially for his disciples. Then Jesus turns to the crowds. Most of the people have stubbornly refused to accept the evidence that he is the Messiah. So he tells them, "When you see a cloud rising in the west, at once you say, 'A storm is coming,' and it happens. And when you see that a south wind is blowing, you say, 'There will be a heat wave,' and it occurs. Hypocrites! You know how to examine the appearance of earth and sky, but why do you not know how to examine this particular time?" Luke 12:54 through 56. They clearly are not ready. Questions for review. Who is the master and who is the faithful steward? Why can the disciples conclude that there will be a faithful steward in the future, and what is this steward's role? Why is Jesus' counsel to keep ready so important? Chapter 79. Why destruction is ahead. Luke 13:1 through 21. Chapter overview. Jesus draws a lesson from two tragedies. Crippled woman healed on the Sabbath. Jesus has tried in many ways to move the people to think about their standing with God. Another occasion arises after his discussion with people outside the house of a Pharisee. Some of them mention a tragic event. They speak about the Galileans whose blood the Roman governor Pontius Pilate had mixed with their sacrifices. Luke 13:1. What do they mean? Perhaps these Galileans were the ones killed when thousands of Jews protested Pilate's use of money from the temple treasury to construct an aqueduct to bring water into Jerusalem. Pilate may have acquired the money with the cooperation of the temple authorities. Those relating this tragedy may feel that the Galileans suffered the calamity because they were guilty of wicked deeds. Jesus disagrees. He asks, "Do you think that those Galileans were worse sinners than all other Galileans because they have suffered these things?" His answer is no. But he uses the incident to warn the Jews, "Unless you repent, you will all likewise be destroyed." Luke 13:2 and 3. Jesus then refers to another tragedy that may have occurred recently and may have been related to the construction of that aqueduct, asking, "Those 18 on whom the tower in Siloam fell, killing them, do you think that they had greater guilt than all other men who live in Jerusalem?" Luke 13:4. The crowd may feel that those individuals died because of some personal badness. Again, Jesus disagrees. He knows that time and unexpected events happen and are likely responsible for this tragedy too. Ecclesiastes 9:11. The people, though, should take a lesson from the event. "Unless you repent, you will all be destroyed as they were," Jesus says. Luke 13:5. But why is he stressing this lesson now? It has to do with where he is in the course of his ministry, and he illustrates the matter this way. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it, but found none. Then he said to the vine dresser, "Here it is 3 years that I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, but have found none. Cut it down. Why should it keep the ground useless?" In reply, he said to him, "Master, leave it alone for 1 more year until I dig around it and put on manure. If it produces fruit in the future, well and good. But if not, then cut it down." Luke 13, 6-9. For more than 3 years, Jesus has been trying to cultivate faith among the Jews. Yet relatively few have become disciples and can be considered fruitage of his labors. Now, in the 4th year of his ministry, he is intensifying his efforts. It is as if he were digging and putting fertilizer around the Jewish fig tree by preaching and teaching in Judea and Perea. With what results? Only a small number of Jews respond. As a whole, the nation refuses to repent and is now in line for destruction. That lack of response on the part of most once again comes to the fore shortly afterward on a Sabbath. Jesus is teaching in a synagogue. He sees a woman who, because a demon is afflicting her, has been bent double for 18 years. Showing compassion, Jesus tells her, "Woman, you are released from your weakness." Luke 13:12. Jesus lays his hands on her, and instantly she straightens up and starts to glorify God. That angers the presiding officer of the synagogue, who says, "There are 6 days on which work ought to be done, so come and be cured on those days, and not on the Sabbath day." Luke 13:14. That officer is not denying that Jesus has the power to heal. Rather, he is condemning the people for coming to be healed on the Sabbath. Jesus responds with clear logic. "Hypocrites, does not each one of you on the Sabbath untie his bull or his donkey from the stall and lead it away to give it something to drink? Should not this woman, who is a daughter of Abraham and whom Satan held bound for 18 years, be released from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" Luke 13:15-16. The opposers feel shame, but the crowds rejoice over the glorious things they are seeing Jesus do. Then Jesus repeats here in Judea 2 prophetic illustrations regarding the kingdom, which he had related earlier from a boat on the Sea of Galilee.
Hey guys, it's Brent. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe
Questions
and like
for
this
review.
video.
What 2 tragedies does Jesus use to provide a warning, and what is the warning? How does the illustration of the unfruitful fig tree highlight the situation of the Jewish nation? Over what is the presiding officer of the synagogue critical, and how does Jesus expose the man's hypocrisy?